Welcome to Fortune Forecast. You are in my book playlist, and we are about to start a whole new book and explore a little of the how-to with a book titled How to Unlock Your Subconscious Mind Through the Science of Mental Analysis. This book was written by two authors, a husband and wife team, Elsie Benedict and Ralph Payne Benedict. The book was published in 1921 and it is in the public domain. The title for me was catchy, and I hope that we're going to discover something new and unlock our potential by unlocking our subconscious mind. So before I go in, I will take this opportunity to share about the authors and get to know them a little bit. Well, one thing I could tell you, this couple had an affinity and love for writing. Ralph Payne Benedict worked with the newspaper business with the Philadelphia Herald, and in conjunction with his wife, both together wrote several books. Elsie Benedict, on the other hand, was advertised as the best-known woman speaker during the 1920s. Most of the books that she wrote during her time were very similar to those in line with Napoleon Hill and Dale Carnegie. She was also known as an American activist representing the state of Colorado for the woman's right to vote, and she promoted the law of attraction through many of her seminars and lectures, and as well as her books. She was also the founder of Brainology, a famous course on scientific mind training. And in a lecture in 1922, she commented that most people use less brains in selecting the person with whom they are to spend their lives than they do in choosing an automobile, a bicycle, or a cut of steak. She said, "Love isn't enough. There must also be understanding." So in 1922, Elsie had already achieved her goal in becoming a millionaire before the age of 30. She also served as head of the Benedict School of Opportunity, the traveling university for men and women, and was founder of the International Opportunity League. So as we move forward into this book, I believe that we are going to be able to tap into some of this powerhouse of information that the Benedicts were able to spend most of their life studying and sharing. So let's get started. And welcome aboard. I am Daisy, your hostess, and I'm glad to have you with me. So grab your coffee, grab your tea, or grab your wine, sit back, and let's get started. The first section is titled Profound Truths Plainly Told. Do you recall the slightly baffled sensation you experienced when a physician to whom you had gone in time of need handed you a prescription? You took the scrap of paper because there was nothing else to do, and on your way to the drugstore scanned it interestedly, trying to decipher its meaning and especially to figure out what bearing these mysterious hieroglyphics could have on your very real and very personal problem. But you decided about the time you found the prescription clerk 'twere a vain ambition for a mere average man to aspire to understand the cryptic scientific code bandied so nonchalantly between these wise technicians. You confessed it quite over your head, paid the bill, and tried to forget it. Could you have stepped behind the counter and heard the drug clerk translating your prescription to himself, it would have amused you to see what agony scientist number 1 had gone to put into Latin for scientist number 2 the simple directions for concocting for you a simple remedy, which in plain United States was simple: peppermint or castor oil. That scientists in this case are going on the ancient theory that they would lose your respect and incidentally your money if they came down off their Minerva-like pedestals and told you the everyday contents of this bottle. Moreover, you might be able to make your own medicine next time, apply your own remedy, and then where would they be? Medical science has contributed much to the health and happiness of man, but it could have helped much more and many more had it been placed within the reach of the everyday man as it might easily have been. Now comes a new human science called psychoanalysis, a science destined to do for mankind far greater things than medical science has ever done. To cure not only the mind, which the physician overlooks, but physical ailments the physician has never been able to reach. It is not an intricate science. It deals, as do all sciences, with the simple though stupendous facts of everyday life. It can be used by every individual who once secures an understanding of it and help him in the solution of his most pressing personal problems. But practically everything that has been given out to date has been, like the prescription, couched in mysterious phraseology and written by scientists to other scientists over the heads of the everyday man whose sufferings they purport to relieve. Musicians will play the ultra-classical, though it put the audience to snoring in 8 minutes, and scorn the simple things everybody longs for, because they play not for the people but for their critical contemporaries. Singers sing to their contemporaries. Learned men talk to the learned. Scientific writers write for other scientific writers, all out of fear. Between and around these few are the unlearned, the unmusical, the unscientific, the backbone of the nation, Mr. and Mrs. Everyday American and their children. They are in trouble. Worry, fear, poverty, grief, sorrow, disappointments, and disillusionments overwhelm them. When the struggle becomes acute, the most intelligent go to books for help. Among other things, they read reams on this new and wonderful psychoanalysis. It is about as understandable as the prescription. The reader, like the patient, seeks, struggles, pays the bill, and tries to forget. But he can't forget because the problem is still unsolved. Not because psychoanalysis could not have solved it, but because he found nothing understandable to apply to his own troubles. Here is a course putting into plain, simple American terms the scientific truths recently discovered about the subconscious mind, with definite, specific explanations of exactly what it is, how it works, where it comes from, where and how it so vitally affects your life, plus definite, specific instructions for applying this knowledge to your own personal affairs. In short, a prescription in English. It is so plain you can make your own medicine next time, and after a while perhaps avoid the necessity for remedies altogether. There is nothing in this course a child can fail to understand. Yet every word is scientifically accurate and deals with the greatest problems of human life. After all, nothing in the world need be made mysterious. Nature is performing miracles all the time, but she speaks a simple language. All the greatest facts of life can be stated in clear, helpful terms and made to do something worthwhile. Therefore, to begin with the name of this course, which includes all the significant and thoroughly tested elements of psychoanalysis and also those of everyday human psychology, is translated into plain American mental analysis. Clues to our intimate mysteries. Here are a few of the hundreds of questions about ourselves which are answered in this pleasurable, practical course. Why are we so different in our dreams from the person we are in real life? How does unhappiness produce disease, and why do joy and success cure it? Why do the rich, the powerful, the beloved, and the beautiful commit suicide? Why do criminals always go back to the scene of the crime? Why does falling in love improve your mental, physical, and spiritual health? Why do we sometimes hate the one we most love? Why does a wife call her husband just a big boy when he also thinks of her as a mere child? What is the true explanation of love at first sight? Why do we get over our wildest love affairs while tamer ones last through the years? Why do lovers often feel sure they have met and mated in a previous existence? Why do we take instantaneous and intense dislike to people? Why do boys fall in love with older women and girls have violent love for mature men? And how does this reconcile itself to the fact that women dislike to marry men younger than themselves, while the older the man, the younger he wants his wife to be? Why do you change certain details when relating a dream? Why are we afraid of certain things, and why do we avoid certain others without knowing why? Why do we often become angry, morose, elated, or excited over trifles? Why do we forget the names of people we know perfectly well, misspeak ourselves, and say things we don't mean before we realize it? Why are we poor when we want money so badly? What is the secret of every person's supreme subconscious wish? Here is a poem by John Kendrick Bangs. I'm daily looking for a man, as on my way I go. His features and his general plan I greatly wish to know. He is that man inside of me that holds the most of good, that I myself someday might be if I but understood. Next section, your secret subconscious self. From the deck of a steamer, you see an iceberg. Always afterward, you think of it as consisting of just what you saw, no more and no less. You describe its outlines to your friends, and you explain its size and shape as being what was visible to your eye. Yet you saw but 1/10 of that iceberg. The other 9/10 were floating beneath the surface, entirely out of sight. If you have never seen a big iceberg, drop a miniature one into your glass next time you are at a table. And the same thing on a smaller scale will happen. Your two minds. Your mind is like that iceberg. It has its upper and nether parts, the conscious and subconscious. The conscious may be likened to the 10th of the iceberg, which is discernible above the surface, for its operations and processes are always apparent to you. It consists of the thoughts you think from moment to moment in your waking hours, but lose when you fall asleep. The conscious mind is busy handling the experiences which arise in your environment, the awareness of your surroundings, sensations of what you're doing, seeing, tasting, touching, smelling. All plans, visualizations, and imaginings which catch and hold your attention are also a part of this surface mind. You express this conscious mind more or less externally and can readily detect its operations. You can open the door on it any instant and catch it at work. Right now, for instance, you can watch your mind thinking of this page and what you are reading. You can look on while it reasons, judges, and decides about what is printed here. In short, this conscious element of your mind is the mind we are all familiar with. The mind we have always known we possessed. The mind dealt with in academic psychology. The mind that does our conscious thinking. The submerged 9/10. But recent discoveries have shown that this surface mind, which we had supposed comprised all our mental processes, is less than 1/10 of the total human consciousness. These discoveries reveal that underneath this conscious mind, part and parcel of it, bound up and wound around it, powerfully influencing it, but out of sight, are the submerged 9/10, called the subconscious. What is the subconscious? This subconscious is the warehouse in which you have been unconsciously and involuntarily storing away all the impressions, memories, feelings, accumulated force, and aftermaths of everything that has ever happened to you. This meant not only all the things you are conscious of having experienced, but millions of sensations you were unaware of at the time. All have stowed themselves away down there in the pigeonhole of that submerged 9/10 of your consciousness, to be heard from later in life. Many of the mysteries about yourself which have baffled, discouraged, or inspired you are solved by the new science of mental analysis, which explains this secret self that lies deeply buried, but always active within each of us. Retail and wholesale thinking. The conscious mind may be called the retailer mind. It is compelled to deal with non-essentials, the externals of your hourly experiences, the thousands of details that arise in your immediate environment. But your subconscious mind knows nothing of these. All its power is directed toward the attainment of your deepest desires. It is a wholesaler and does things only in the by and large. It is not much concerned with what you are doing, saying, or experiencing at this moment, as with the mass result of the experiences through which you have already passed, plus the probable effect upon you of those you are now facing. Your subconscious mind does not so much think as feel. It does not believe or reason as does your conscious mind. It knows. Your subconscious ocean. Nothing you see, hear, say, think, do, feel, or experience is ever lost. Each is preserved forever in the deeps of your subconsciousness. It is as though you lived in a houseboat on a great ocean, into whose depths something dropped every time you had a thought, a feeling, or any kind of experience whatever. Some of these are of such a nature as to throw overboard the seeds from which would grow beautiful water lilies, ferns, and lacy mosses. Some would bring forth weeds, others poison ivy, while others would fringe the shore with great trees, whose strength would delight you, and whose shade would comfort and bless all who came that way. Some of your deeds and desires would fling into this ocean only trash, chunks of pig iron, bits of wood, Baubles, toys, debris, trappings and trimmings of idle moments, dark thoughts, primitive instincts, all would lie there at the bottom of the sea. Divers could find every one, some distorted, some washed cleaner than when they went in, but each and every one affected in some way by being there. Many of the thoughts and things we had supposed lifeless would turn out to be fertile seeds. They would have sprouted all manner of strange, exotic, ugly, and beautiful plants, each bearing fruit according to its nature, and sending up the ocean's surface the results natural to itself. We do and say many things which are the result of the things we previously submerged in the subconscious sea. The stranger in your skin. A man does things that are foreign to him, not what he intended. They seem to do themselves. He means to say a certain thing, to express a certain thought, and instead says something entirely different. He forgets the names of people he knows perfectly well, answers no when he means yes, and in 100 ways entangles himself against his will. He says, "That was accidental." "I said that unconsciously," or "I wasn't myself." But none of these is really true. The fact of the matter is that all of them were done by his subconscious. They are not accidental, but in accordance with the definite law that we tend constantly to express to the outer world whatever is in the back of our minds. We also tend to forget whatever is displeasing to the ego and to remember whatever is pleasing to it. The actor's story. One of the well-known actors in America told us this: "I am often asked to dinners and other social affairs with people in whom I have no interest whatever, people with whom I have nothing in common and with whom I would rather not be bothered." I found that almost invariably I jotted down these engagements on my calendar for the day following the actual date, and was always being called up afterward and reminded of my absence. After a while, it dawned on me that my subconscious wish not to go caused me habitually, but innocently, to put down the wrong date, and always to make the mistake for the day after, so that it would be safely over before I could be reminded. I arrived at these conclusions because of another strange experience I always having of putting down engagements with personal friends for the date previous to that in the invitation, evidently because I was subconsciously anxious to go. More than once, I arrived at these houses a day or even 2 days prior to the party, as unconscious of this mistake as I was of the opposite one. In our own lives. In a lesser degree, these experiences happen to all of us, as when we find it so easy to be early at any affair we wish to attend, but late to things we dislike. Memory's treasure vault. The subconscious has also been called the treasure vault of memory. In it is preserved the record of everything we have ever heard, seen, read, learned. It never forgets. Everything you ever knew, you know still. Whether your memory is able to dive down and bring it from the bottom of your consciousness at this moment or not. One reason why all persons are not able to do this now is that we have, until the last few years, been ignorant of the fact that the mind did remember, and have taken it for granted that these things passed entirely out of our mental grasp, that we had forgotten. A clearer understanding of the subconscious enables even the beginner to revive in consciousness many things he had imagined completely erased from memory. The subconscious is always on the alert. We now know with complete certainty that it never sleeps. In fact, that it is more active when the conscious mind sleeps than during our waking hours. We have seen proof of this many times in our own lives, as, for instance, when we can awaken without an alarm clock to catch a 4 a.m. train if we really want to take the journey. Nurses in hospital wards full of patients sleep soundly through all manner of outcries, but awaken at the whispered request of their own patients. A mother sleeps through many disturbances, but rouses at the merest movement of her sick child. The country man, upon coming to the city, is unable to sleep the first few nights, but his subconscious soon adapts itself and he sleeps as soundly through those same noises a week later as he did out on the farm. Bridge between mind and body. Does the mind have a body, or does the body have a mind? Is a question over which the philosophers have wrangled for centuries. Today we know that both are true, and that the subconscious mind, of which these ancient arguers were unaware, is the bridge between the body and the mind. The conscious mind functions through the brain, but the subconscious functions throughout the entire body, the cerebrum, the muscles, the solar plexus, the nerves, apparently through every cell in both body and brain. That this is no far-fetched theory is shown in the fact that its first American exponent was the greatest living materials scientist, Thomas A. Edison. He says, "Every cell in us thinks," and has proven to his own satisfaction that nothing is dead matter, but all is living energy expressing itself in various forms. Inner recesses and outer results. There have always been those who realized the influence of these submerged selves of ours, and there is not a thinking human but who realizes that many things in his life, however much they may mystify others, are but the outward expression of something in his inner life. But it requires an unusually high grade of intelligence and an unusually frank heart to acknowledge what mental analysis shows us so clearly today, that your money, your possessions, your good luck and bad luck, your ill health or perfect health, your environment, your life as a whole, are the harvests from seeds you planted in the soil of your subconscious in days gone by. But whether you realize it or not, these things are true. You are reaping what you have sown. The results are in accordance with laws that are inexorable, unchanging, and absolutely impersonal. Your life today is the net result of your yesterdays. Your tomorrows will be the net result of those yesterdays plus the seeds you are planting today, this hour, and this instant. The only way to make the tomorrows what you wish them to be is to learn what you have already planted, how to uproot the weak and cultivate the strong things that are growing in your personality, and how to plant from this hour onward only the seeds whose fruit you desire to reap in your coming years. This course, by showing you these things, can enable you to remake your life, as it has already done for thousands of former students. The secret of the famous. All great souls have recognized and declared that they were strangely aided by something within themselves, but which they did not reason out. Every famous composer has said, "No, I can't tell you how I thought out the music because I did not do so. It came to me. I put down what came. Every great poet has said, I cannot tell you how I wrote this poem because I do not know. It set itself in my mind, and I wrote it down. Every famous orator has said, the right thoughts never come when I am trying to write out a speech. My audience is the other half of me. The best ideas come only when I am face to face with the crowd. Every illustrious minister has declared, the best parts of my sermons are never written in my study, but come into my mind as I stand before my congregation. The flash of inspiration which comes to the lawyer at the crucial moment in his trial of a case comes not from his conscience but from his subconscious mind, as he will tell you himself. The reason so few people achieve greatness is not that there are but few with the spark of genius in them, but the source of greatness, the subconscious mind, is clogged in all but the few. The mental machinery of most people is full of monkey wrenches and junk. The brakes are all on and the cylinders are skipping. The average mind is as disorganized as a ragbag. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Almost every individual leads a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde life, with part of his mind pulling one way and another pulling the opposite. Then he wonders why this split personality makes no more progress. There is no mystery about it. Such a man is never able to present a solid front to the world. A unified personality is the first requisite for success or happiness under any conditions whatever. These energies, mentality, and interests of the average individual are disorganized, disrupted, chaotic, jumbled in a mixed up heap. Few people see the ruinous effect of this splitting of the personality, and some even consider it an achievement. A man calls himself clever when he is able to live one life outwardly and another inwardly. He is able to appear at a social affair disliking the whole thing, the guests, the interruption to his business, even the hostess, and all the while talk and act as though charmed, flattered, delighted, and happy. Good gracious, what an insufferable bore, he explains to his wife the instant they are out of earshot. Society compels me to lead this double life, he will say. My business requires it. Social amenities demand it. And to an extent, these are true. But we are coming to realize that insincerity of any kind reacts back on the personality with fatal consequences. First among these consequences is the disintegrating of the consciousness, and no man can succeed whose two minds are not working in harmony. The penalty of pretense. It is not easy to lead double lives, even though they may be comparatively innocent ones. Concealed facts are always popping out into open sight. Slips of the tongue, glances and postures, 100 things betray the man who would keep out of sight his real and actual self. The subconscious is like a vast irrigation system with every muscle a tiny headgate in the great network. A man may learn to watch one or two or even a dozen of these headgates in eyes, mouth, voice, and manner, but they are so numerous he cannot watch them all. And from whence he least expects it, there will break out the telltale overflow. A practical personal science. This latest of the human sciences shows us what we have been doing to ourselves, our lives, our chances in life, our loves, hopes, and aspirations. How we have been unconsciously poisoning our own wells at their source. How we have administered mental narcotics to ourselves when we most needed mental stimulation. how we have built up the present from our own individual, racial, and biological past into a structure in which we now live and through which our personalities function, express themselves, and meet the world. It shows how we may easily and immediately reverse the process and begin to get the things we want out of life. It is an essentially practical, personal science dealing with our everyday problems in an everyday way. Our aim and our accomplishment to date has been to give it to the student in such simple and straightforward language that it begins from the first moment to help him in the solution of his most intimate inward affairs. It will do this for you. It will give you the insight into your own mentality, which will explain to you why you think and feel as you do, why you've gotten no farther in life, why some succeed and others fail. What are you preparing for? Albert Hubbard stated a great truth when he said, "We get what we prepare for." People bring their own unhappiness. That they do so innocently, blindly, unknowingly does not help matters. Ignorance of the law excuses no man. The laws which rule us and our lives are divine, unalterable. He who obeys them, whether he do so consciously or unconsciously, reaps the rewards that other people call good luck. He who consciously or unconsciously violates them pays the penalties he calls his bad luck. The supremest effort of life, therefore, should be to learn what the laws are which rule human happiness and how they operate, that we may consciously and constantly plant the seeds for the harvest we want. This course in mental analysis has made these laws so clear, concise, graphic, and understandable that anyone can put them to use in the solving of his everyday problems. They bring results from the first moment of applying them in happiness, health, and success. Skepticism and criticism. Some may say, these things sound impossible. It is inevitable that some would say this. Every step in human progress has been opposed at first and forced to fight its way to recognition against skepticism and criticism. This is due to the well-known psychological fact that the average individual does not think for himself, even about his own most serious problems, but gives himself ready-made and outworn excuses for his failures and flatteringly false congratulations for his success. Such a one refuses to believe a new thing because it is new. Thinking man and woman know that the human race is in the infant stage of its development, that a few hundred years from now human beings will be doing things as far beyond our present achievements as ours are beyond those of prehistoric men. And those who have given the subject thought realize that this progress is coming, as it has already begun to come, through the one thing that has given man sovereignty over the globe, further understanding and development of his consciousness. Man is superior to animals in proportion as his mind is superior to theirs. One man is superior to another and achieves results superior to the others in exact proportion as his mind is in better working order, more under his control, and better understood by him. Why we were not told. If I bring my own suffering and successes, why have I not been taught this before? Others will ask. There is but one answer. We are never taught the thing most vital to human happiness. Fathers and mothers are so busy getting food for their children's stomach and clothes for their backs, they have no time or energy to investigate or explain either to themselves or to their children how the human mind controls human happiness. The result is that parents who would not think of feeding their children's intestines canned food feed their intellect with canned ideas, ideas so outworn, so stale and putrid that the child is forever handicapped in the race of life. Teachers and preachers, the other two forces which train the young mind, are so harassed by the overpowering problem of making small salaries suffice for necessities that they have neither heart nor head for remoter human ones. Favorite fibs. Thus we grow up knowing a lot of things that ain't so. Things that are easy to teach, pretty to preach, but impossible to live up to. We are told that virtue is its own reward, and see the most virtuous people all around us rewarded with kicks and poverty. We are told that genius is the art of taking infinite pains, only to discover that the most painstaking people are in bookkeeping cages getting $20 a week, while every genius is notoriously incapable of taking pains with anything save what he loves, even his shoelaces. We are taught that success comes from hard work, but note how the day laborer gets $4 for working his hand 8 hours, while the banker makes a fortune by working his head 4 hours a day and playing golf the rest of the time. The secret of success. The secret of success is not hard work, painstaking effort, not even virtue, though each of these is essential to supreme happiness. The secret of success for every human being lies in the harmonious working of his conscious and subconscious powers. Those who have succeeded have in every instance, consciously or unconsciously, used their minds as they were intended to be used. Those who failed unconsciously violated the laws of the mind and reaped the inevitable result. Purpose of the subconscious. This submerged 9/10 of the consciousness is of the utmost significance in every human life. It has unlimited capacity for good or evil, according as it is used or misused. Each individual's life is made or marred by this vast subterranean sea of urges and impulses. This great self is infinitely strong, infinitely courageous, infinitely powerful. It exists for one purpose and one only: to externalize you, to bring you self-expression, to secure for you an untrammeled personality, to attain for you your supreme subconscious aim. From birth to death, it strives to set you free, to enable you to be yourself, your truest, realist self. That happy, successful self you were created to be. The great self you may be, can be, and shall be. The supreme wish. The greatest psychological discovery of recent ages shows us that the entire personality of every human being is built around one deep, consuming desire, some supreme subconscious wish. In one individual, this supreme desire is for one thing, in another for something else, depending on the type and temperament of each. But no human being lives who does not have some deep desire at the core of his heart. Life built around the wish. That every man builds his life around this supreme wish is the explanation of many of our otherwise incredible inconsistencies, strange reactions, and of the remarkable accomplishments of apparently mediocre men and women. Many persons know what their supreme life wish is. The most successful always know, and their successes due more to this knowledge than to any other one thing. When we say, "That man knows his own mind," we are saying much more than we realize. For there are many who do not know, and these many are the failures in life. Those who only guess are the half failures. No hard work necessary. In utilizing your subconsciousness, strenuous effort is neither necessary nor desirable. This mind is already organized and ready to work out for you whatever you desire. It does not need urging. It is the real you. It contains all your aspirations and impulses already. It does not require encouragement any more than a river needs to be encouraged to flow to the sea. All it needs is direction. It is keyed for action and has been every day since you were born. It is like a racehorse that has been trained for the track. Take the reins in your hand and let it work for you. You have never tested the powers within your own personality because society, schools, teachers, preachers, and parents are organized against every kind of spontaneous expression of the individual. That is why it is in danger of committing suicide, this society of ours. That is why some of its members are constantly turning against it and doing damage in the form of murder and war. We must live understandingly before we can live uprightly. Getting out of yourself. Do not waste time and energy trying to get out of yourself. The man who tries to get out of himself before he has cleaned house is working in the wrong direction. The person who feels impelled to get out of himself has something wrong inside which he cannot bear to look at. So he goes to the theater, drinks, gambles, speeds, scolds, spends money and time foolishly. But it does no good. He cannot get away from himself. The moment the excitement is over, back he slumps to the old self, which is worse than it was before, because it knows, and he knows the wasting of time, energy, money, and thought in the attempt to drown his troubles has harmed him, entangled him more deeply, and pushed him farther back than ever. The teaching, "Forget yourself for the world," is a beautiful ideal, one we must more and more live up to if we hope to be truly happy. It is necessary to the progress of the world for us to lose ourselves in self-forgetful service. But we must learn how to do it. No one takes very long steps toward it until he settles his internal warfare. Everyday illustrations. Your subconscious is either backing your work or bucking it. It will back you in anything that is in accordance with your supreme wish. You will do the amazing task with amazing ease once you start. But anything which is in opposition to it will go slowly, sadly, heavily, and inefficiently. Whatever aids and abets your supreme subconscious aim, you will labor over for long hours, absolutely without fatigue, but whatever takes you in the opposite direction leaves you actually physically exhausted at the end of 10 minutes. How gladly and gaily we do a task today when it furthers some particular project. How glumly and grumpily we do the very same thing tomorrow if it no longer furthers that project. With what vim a young girl who has always disliked housework helps mother with dinner and the dishes when her young man is there to see. How easy it is to forget the bills we owe, but how that same memory of ours does work when the other fellow owes us. How simple to remember the addresses, the initials, and even the telephone numbers of new people we are interested in. And how difficult to remember even the names of those we are indifferent to. The only difference in all these cases is the difference in the way in which a subconscious wish is affected. Why we fail. If it is possible for my subconscious to get for me anything I wish, why have I never gotten the things I most desired? Is a reasonable and inevitable question. Because you have violated the laws whereby the subconscious operates. You, like everything else in the universe, are a part of, not apart from natural law. Your being is responsive to and built in accordance with certain divine rules, regulations, and edicts. When you disobey these, you suffer. When you obey them, you succeed. The first law of the subconscious. You must free your subconscious of the shackles with which you have all your life crippled it. You must take off the throttles with which you have been choking it. You must give the strong self of you a chance to work for you. You must take your hands off the bridle of the swift racer that champs at the bit and let him go. Every great, successful, big or famous person has deferred from the failures wholly and solely in proportion as he learned there was a deep voice within him. Listen to that voice and let it out for all the world to hear. Your problem is you. First of all, get rid of the notion that people and things and life in general are against you. Nothing can harm you but yourself, and the only way you can permanently hurt yourself is by the misuse of your mentality. Luck is not against you. Luck is what you make it. Conditions and circumstances may be adverse to you at this moment, but if so, they are the ones you have made by your previous thinking. Stop that kind of thinking, or you will go on piling up more adverse conditions for tomorrow. Your invisible self. Your subconscious may be compared to a great ocean liner. As we gaze at her across the blue ocean, what do we see? We say we see the steamer. But what we see is the upper decks, masts and fluttering flags, the waving, smiling passengers, the life and action of her. But there is far more to that steamer than this. There's her great body, the lower regions, the steerage, the hundreds of workmen, tons of cargo, massive machinery, and powerful dynamos. The upper decks look important, but the thing that determines how far and how fast she travels, what she carries, and whether or not she ever reaches port, depend on the way the unseen forces work down there in her hull. The outside of you that men see are your upper decks. People, and perhaps you yourself, imagine these are all there is to you, but it is only a fraction. The direction in which you go, what you do with your life, how far you travel, and the port at which you arrive, all depend on the workings of the subconscious mind down there in your hull. That subconscious is not only 9/10 of your mind, but 9/10 of you. It is far stronger than anything and everything else within you, utterly fearless and unafraid. It possesses powers beyond your wildest dreams. When you put yourself in harmony with it, it will carry you surely and safely to your desired destination. And this concludes the first section. Hope you're enjoying this. If you haven't done so yet, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and meet me at the next video as we get started with Lesson 1.